Imagine waking up to a world where your morning coffee, your critical business meetings, and even your ability to call for help are all paralyzed by a sudden and massive technology outage. Maybe you don't even have to imagine it. Maybe it happened to you this morning. Countless individuals and businesses around the globe are currently suffering from a software update crash that has crippled systems across multiple industries. As we increasingly depend on digital infrastructure, the question really isn't if another one of these technology failures will happen, but more like when is it going to happen? And how prepared is your business going to be to weather the storm? Today, I'm going to be discussing what happened with CrowdStrike and Microsoft systems, how it's affected businesses, and what you can do to prevent the blue screen of death from causing your business operations in the future. Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm Michael Kennett. I'm CEO and founder of Eternal Networks. And every Friday at 1 o'clock Pacific time, I go live on social media to discuss the latest tech and cybersecurity news that might be affecting you and your business and to answer your questions. In these live streams, I cover educational topics to help fellow small business owners feel more confident about their knowledge of business, technology, and cybersecurity. At Eternal Networks, our goal is to help businesses to build safe and secure environments, to do what they love, to stop worrying about their IT, their cybersecurity, so they can focus on what they're passionate about. At the end of the live stream, I'll be answering any questions from the audience. So if you've got them, throw them in the comments, get them ready. We'll be covering those at the end. Normally, I cover the news topics, a couple of things from the news. Well, today the entire topic is from the news. It's headlines, and if you haven't seen the headlines, good for you. Maybe you're on an island somewhere, with your toes in the sand, watching the waves. But if you're in America and watching the news at all today, you're aware of what's going on, at least a little bit, with all this massive outage today. So here's the question, right? Did Microsoft mess up? Did CrowdStrike mess up? Is this a hack? Is this an incident? Like what's going on? It's knocked out systems for airplanes, Starbucks, even some 911 call centers. So what does it all mean? What's it all about? So let's start off with talking about the cause, the root problem that caused this outage. CrowdStrike is a global cybersecurity company. They have cybersecurity software. And their chief executive, George Kurtz, confirmed earlier today in a post on X that a, quote, defect in a content update for Windows hosts had caused the outage. He emphasized that it was not a cyber attack, it was a technical issue. He stated that the company was rolling out a fix and that Mac and Linux hosts were not impacted. He reassured customers in this post that the problem had been identified, isolated, and addressed, with continuous updates being provided via CrowdStrike's support portal. The crash reports were related to the Falcon sensor, which is CrowdStrike's cloud-based security service that's designed for real-time threat detection and proactive threat hunting. Microsoft has also acknowledged the issue, indicating that the problems were due to an update from a third-party software platform and that a resolution was forthcoming. So just to be clear, this is not a Microsoft problem. It's not something that's a problem with Microsoft's operating system or Microsoft software. It's a problem with CrowdStrike's, with an update to CrowdStrike software that runs on Microsoft platforms. So let's talk a little bit about the effect. What is the effect of this? Actually, before I go into the effect, I do want to say, if you're being impacted by this, there is a published workaround. There is a way to boot the system into safe mode, remove a specific file, and then be able to get your systems back up. But it's a very manual process right now. So there is a workaround. I'm not going to dig into that right now. We're going to cover other things. But if you are being affected by this, your organization, and you don't know what to do, please reach out to us, because my techs are aware of the fix, the temporary workaround to get systems back operational. So don't feel like you're stuck alone. Reach out if you have any problems. All right. That being said, let's talk about the effect and what's happened and what industries and organizations that we're aware of have been affected by this. So airlines and travel has been massively impacted by this. And I've been watching this today because my daughter is flying back from Bolivia. She's been on a humanitarian trip. for a couple of weeks, and we've missed her. But she's traveling back today, and we've been hearing about airlines being canceled, not just delayed, but completely canceled. Luckily, her flight was delayed 15 minutes, but Southwest Airlines, who she's flying with, was not impacted. So, but many people are stranded, including some of the people in my daughter's trip that she traveled with that were flying through other airlines, right? So check-in systems, ticketing systems have been offline. Flights have been delayed. Flights have been completely canceled. And to some reports, I mean, it's practically been chaos. U.S. federal airspace officials announced a nationwide ground stop. Now, I do want to say that's not impacting every airline, because Southwest Airlines and I believe JetBlue are not impacted by this, but most of the major airlines are impacted. They're completely grounded. So big news with airlines and with travel. Retailers have had point of sale systems malfunctioning and not working properly today. Some stores like Starbucks are only accepting cash. They have no way of accepting credit card payments today because of this outage. Banks and financial services have had disruptions throughout the industry. Various financial institutions have said that they are not able to operate today. The London Stock Exchange had disruptions when they opened. Healthcare industry has been affected as well. Mass General Brigham has canceled non-urgent visits to their hospital. Emergency rooms have remained operational, but some have experienced system outages. Cincinnati Children's Hospital lost access to their Microsoft-based computer systems, and several doctors' offices in the UK have also reported issues with the National Health Services clinical computer system that's part of the UK health organizations. Public safety has been impacted, with 911 dispatch centers in places like Phoenix and Alaska having outages as a result of this. Some non-emergency call centers have also been affected. Media and broadcasting organizations such as Sky News in the UK have had trouble broadcasting live. Indian news channels reported problems broadcasting. There's a station in Kansas City that ran network news instead of local programming because they were having problems. Utilities companies in Indiana and various other agencies and other have been reporting outages and disruptions. Some reporting that customers are not able to pay bills, not able to see the status of their accounts. So it's impacting a lot. Education's another one. Henry Ford College in Michigan is closed for business, saying that their computers are unusable. University of Michigan reported problems with their systems. Government services, Maryland and Indiana and Georgia have had problems and disruptions and not able to offer some of the services that they normally offer as a result of this. And as you can imagine, the technology industry has been in an uproar. I've seen multiple emails and posts from some of my colleagues around the country saying, hey, we're available to help if any of you are overwhelmed with this. So even if an organization's systems weren't taken down, anybody in technology support has been impacted by this. Microsoft has also reported there's been some disruptions in its enterprise app and some of its cloud services as a result of this CrowdStrike outage. So as you can see, this is widespread. This isn't one industry. This isn't one country even, right? This is a global technology outage problem that's impacting many people and many organizations. So let's talk a little bit about some of the solutions that are available here. Businesses can make plans to continue operations during outages such as this by implementing a comprehensive business continuity plan, or BCP, and by adopting some specific strategies to mitigate the impact of these type of disruptions. I'm obviously not going to be able to cover every scenario here, but I do want to cover some key steps and some strategies that businesses can take to prepare for this. So obviously I mentioned the BCP, the business continuity plan. That's the end goal, right? Is to build a business continuity plan to have in place for these type of problems, these outages. And that all starts with, no surprise if you watch any of my other streams, with a risk assessment. You have to identify your critical systems and your potential risks. You have to be able to look and see what does your organization rely on and what would the impact be if that system was down. You have to look at different types of outages on operations, right? How is your operations going to be impacted if you can't receive credit cards? Will you still be able to operate? What if you can't log into your computers? Will you still be able to operate? What if you can't get into your building? Will you still be able to operate, right? So there's lots of different scenarios that you can think through as you're building out your business continuity plan. And it all starts with that risk assessment, with looking and trying to think through different scenarios to identify what systems could be impacted, how our operations can be affected. And then you can take the next step with building backup systems, right? If you identify that hey, this is a critical computer and we can't operate without this, we'd be completely dead in the water, make sure that you're performing regular backups on the data and on the system, not only locally, but also offsite to cloud storage or to data centers that are remote. Make sure that you're maintaining redundant systems and infrastructure to switch over in case of failure for those systems that you identify as critical. Also, make sure that you update your disaster recovery plan. Make sure that it's developed as part of your business continuity plan, and make sure that it's tested. Ensure that you can quickly restore your systems and data from backups. There's an organization in Las Vegas that had an outage not too long ago, and I was talking with one of the IT technicians that was involved in helping get them back online. And he said that in the process, he kind of came in as a consultant to help them, and he said, well, hey, how are your backups? And they said, oh, our backups are great. Yeah, no problem. Our backups, they're offsite to a data center. Okay, well, let's go get access to them and check on them. Well, come to find out, not only were they not great, they were encrypted, and the license had expired 2 years ago. So that organization had not been doing the tests and verifying those things. So make sure part of your business continuity plan, a disaster recovery plan, that you are testing those things, that you're monitoring your backups, so that if there is a problem, you have access to that information and you know that the process is going to work. Also, this one's frequently overlooked, I think, when it comes to technology business continuity, but you need to have a clear communication strategy. Develop a communication plan for internal staff and for external stakeholders. Make sure that you have multiple channels. You know, what happens if your email is down? You need to be able to send out messages in other ways. So consider email, SMS, text messaging, social media, phone calls to disseminate information during an outage. And it's important to, make sure that your staff knows about it, but also your clients that might be impacted by it. Make sure that you're developing strategies for continued operations in those systems that you identify as critical. One of those might be alternate payment methods. If you have a point of sale system and you accept, retail or restaurant, and you are not able to fully operate if you can't accept credit cards, make sure that you have alternate payment methods in place. Equip stores with manual credit card imprinters or systems that allow you to be able to take credit cards offline and then run those and process those through when you come back online. Also, make sure that you have the ability to accept cash in those instances, and you have the ability to get sufficient cash on hand for your operations. Sometimes you may have to implement manual processes. Train staff on any of those manual processes that you have for key operations. Keep paper copies of essential forms and documents. I think it's wonderful that businesses are going paperless as much as they can, going electronic. But when you don't have access to those systems, having a paper copy of that form or document that's online means that you can then collect that information and keep moving forward, albeit a little bit less efficiently. All right, it's also important that you're regularly training your employees on your business continuity plan and their roles during outages. That's that's a critical part of the BCP. If your staff doesn't know what their responsibilities are going to be during an outage, then it's going to be chaos when an outage happens. Conduct drills and simulations to ensure preparedness for those type of situations. Also, it's one of the great benefits of using cloud-based services is for instances like this. If you're not able to access your location or some of your infrastructure is down and you have cloud-based services for your critical applications, you can then access that from any location, allowing you to maybe relocate your staff to work from home or to work from another office building to keep operations moving forward. Implement endpoint detection and response solutions to quickly isolate and mitigate any threats that are detected as well. Don't feel like you have to do all of this on your own as well. Involve your vendors, involve your partners, establish agreements with them for alternative support methods during outages. Ensure that your third-party service providers have their own BCPs in place, right? We don't want them going down and then, in a sense, basically they're taking you down because they weren't prepared as well. So make sure you have those conversations with those critical providers as well. One other thing to consider is physical security measures. A lot of times when these type of events happen and it's a little bit more chaotic, physical security may be a secondary thought. So make sure that you do have physical security measures in place to protect your assets and your information during these type of outages. And then also it's important that you implement good cybersecurity measures. Make sure that you are doing regular updates, you're doing patch management, keeping your systems up to date. Make sure that you're testing in a controlled environment before you're deploying those updates. You know, frequently we're asked, well, when do you install Microsoft updates? You install them the day that they come out? The answer is no. If you install Microsoft updates or any app updates the day that they come out, you run the risk of what happened today. You want to test those updates in a controlled environment, make sure that they're not going to cause major systems before you deploy those across your organization. So make sure that's part of your patch management strategy in your organization. Also, network segmentation. I don't talk about this probably as often as I should. Network segmentation is separating out your network by device type to minimize the ability of anybody, really, criminals or internal employees, of getting into systems they're not supposed to. So you're separating those off into virtual networks or physical networks where, like, this is my guest network, this is my employee network. That's the best scenario there, right? So make sure you're doing that to limit the spread of outages and cyber attacks. Isolate your critical systems from your less secure systems to make sure that those less secure systems aren't going to then take your entire system down. All right, we talked about a business continuity plan. We've talked about a disaster recovery plan. Here's another plan, on a communications plan. One other one you got to consider is an incident response plan. Make sure that you have developed and maintained an incident response plan and have a team that's responsible for managing and mitigating incidents. All of those other plans that we've talked about will be part of that incident response plan, right? If there's an incident, you can say, okay, here's the incident. Let's go grab the other plans and let's implement them, the communications, the business continuity, right? Let's do all of those and implement them. But the incident response plan is really how you're going to use all those other plans in the event of an incident and who's going to do what responsibilities. I've mentioned this, right? You're not alone, right? Involve your partners, involve your vendors. Participate in industry groups and forums to share information and best practices for your organization. Stay informed about potential threats, emerging risks. There are many in every industry, right, that are forward-looking, that are looking and saying, like, hey, what potential problems is this industry going to be facing, and how can we protect ourselves against them? So stay aware of what's going on in the industry, what those people are saying, and then identify and make that part of your risk assessment, right? When you're looking at your risks, look at what other people are saying and where the industry is going, and then build that into your plans. Also, it may be that you need to involve government or law enforcement. So keep that in mind as you're building out these plans. Depending on the type of incident and the type of threat that you're facing, you may have to get law enforcement involved to support and guide you during large-scale outages or attacks. Excuse me. By implementing all of these strategies that I've discussed and maintaining a robust business continuity plan, businesses can better prepare for and continue to operate during tech outages like really the disaster that's been going on today. If you do ever need advice for your business continuity plans, risk assessments, etc., or anything technology or security related, you can always reach out to me and my team to ask questions. And send me a direct message, use our website, leave comments on our posts and our chats. Lots of ways of reaching out to us. I love talking about technology, cybersecurity, as does my team. So we're here, we're available as needed. Let me see. Oh, we got some comments. So Rita, I'm a flight attendant. We were impacted by this issue. My airline is doing everything possible to get people to destinations, and I was able to successfully operate 2 flights, even though we had a very slow boarding process due to systems being down. That's wonderful. So Rita, that's a good example of what I'm talking about, right? Even though systems were down, the airline that Rita works for had a manual process, had another way that they could go through to board and to get people on the flight and get them to their final destination. So that's a perfect example of what I was talking about, of those type of things. A little bit less effective, less efficient, but the end result is you were able to provide that service to your customers, to those that were flying. Emily, yep, your sister's also a flight attendant having a slow day. Yeah, the airlines industry, I feel for them, especially some of the airlines that have had other technology issues earlier this year and last year, and then to have this on top of it. So what other comments we've got here? Amber, what's happening on a global level is incredible. What is your recommendation to a small business when choosing vendors and services for IT and cybersecurity? That's a great question. And I'm expecting that question to come up a lot more because CrowdStrike is one of the leading security vendors, right? And now because of this, they're going to be greatly impacted, right? Their organization, all their customers globally. This is massive. And so there's a lot of things that you need to consider, right? So when you're looking at a cybersecurity software vendor or an IT vendor, you want to talk to them about, okay, well, what processes do you have in place? What type of business continuity plans, what type of mitigation strategies are in place to prevent these type of things from ever happening in the first place? There are many organizations in the technology and cybersecurity industry, Gartner being probably one of the leading ones, that go in and test out and they look at all these different vendors. And we're talking like the large vendors, not the small ones in your local market that might be providing the IT support services. We're talking about the software vendors. And they look at all of them and they say, okay, well, who's leading the industry? Who has the best software? Who has other systems in place to make sure they're not going to have outages? They look at all of that and then they rate those organizations. And so when you're looking at organizations, you want to look at that and say, okay, well, how do they compare in the industry? What are they doing to protect themselves so that they're also going to be able to protect me? The last thing you want is, having somebody coming in to provide protection for you when they're leaving their own back door wide open, because that's just not a good situation you want to be in. So that's a great question. And maybe we can dig a little bit deeper into some of those, how to look at how to vet those type of cybersecurity and IT companies on another call. Let's see if we have any other comments or questions from our live viewers. Doesn't look like it. Well, thank you for joining us today. If you're watching this after the fact and do have any comments, questions, please, throw them in the comments. We'll respond to those. You can always reach out to me, as I mentioned, direct message, call our office, email our team through our website, itnet.works. Hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll catch you next week.